Today we are going to be talking about adding and subtracting positive and negative decimals. So what's great about this unit is that we are actually going to be using the same rules that we used for adding and subtracting integers with a couple of more added in. So let's just kind of do a review of what we know about adding and subtracting integers. So the first thing we're going to do is change subtraction to addition, and then we're going to take the opposite of the second number. Then you're going to focus on the signs of the numbers, and you're going to ask yourself, can zero pairs be made? So if you can make zero pairs, then you're going to subtract the numbers, and you're going to keep the sign of the number that has a greater absolute value. We also talked about, how you can just look at the number and see which one has more. If you cannot make zero pairs, then you're going to add the numbers and you're going to keep the sign of the numbers you just added. And finally, you want to make sure that you always line up the decimals when you are adding or subtracting. That's going to be really important because decimals are all surrounded, around place value. And if the place value is off, then your entire answer could be wrong. All right, so let's move on and work through some examples. Okay, so here is my first example. I have -5 and 63 hundredths plus 79 hundredths. Now remember, when we're working with integers, it's not always what it seems. You kind of have to focus on what's actually happening with the numbers. So my first question, can I make zero pairs? To make a zero pair, I need something negative and I need something positive. My 5.63 is negative and my 0.79 is positive. So yes, I can make zero pairs. And if I can make zero pairs, then I am going to subtract my numbers. So off to the side, I'm going to show my work. Now here's the part that's very important. I'm going to make sure that my decimals are in a straight line. So right here, my decimals should be like the buttons on your shirt. And the decimal in the answer is going to be in that exact same place. Now that I have my decimals lined up, I'm going to subtract as I would with whole numbers. I'm going to borrow from the 6 and change it to a 5 so that this is a 13. 13 minus 9 is 4. Borrow from the 5, change it to a 4, so that this can become a 15. 15 minus 7 is 8, and 4 minus nothing is 4. So part of my answer is 4.4 hundredths. Now I'm going to look back at my numbers, and I'm going to decide, in this problem, were there more negatives in this problem, or were there more positives? So I can see that there were actually more negatives because 5 and 63 hundredths has a higher absolute value. So my final answer is negative. All right, great job on that example. Let's go ahead and work through a few more. Okay, in this example, we have -4 and a tenth minus 3 and 7/10. Now, big change from this problem. This is an addition, this is subtraction. And for all of our subtraction problems, we are going to change them into addition problems by changing subtraction to addition and then taking the opposite of the second number. 3.7 is positive, so I'm going to change that to a negative. And now I'm going to follow my rules. Can I make zero pairs? Well, I have this number that is negative and this number that is negative. No, I cannot make zero pairs because they are both negative. That means that I am going to add the numbers. So I'm going to take 4.1 and 3.7 and I'm going to add those two together. 7, I'm going to make sure that my decimals are lined up, again, just like the buttons on your shirt. Then my the decimal for my answer is going to be in that straight line. 7 plus 1 is 8, and 4 plus 3 is 7. So my answer, part of my answer is 7 and 8/10. Now I'm going to look back in my problem. Were there more negatives in this problem or more positives? Since both numbers are negative, obviously there are more negatives. So my answer is negative. Okay, let's try another example. Here we have 3.3 6/10 minus 5 46/100. So the first thing I see is that this is subtraction. Since it's subtraction, I'm going to change that to addition. And I'm going to take the opposite of the second number. Right now that 5.46 is positive. I'm going to change that to a negative. All right, then I'm going to look at the numbers I have. My 3.6 is positive, but my 5.46 is negative. So I have something positive and something negative. That means I can make 0 pairs, which means I need to subtract the numbers. So I'm going to make sure my decimals are lined up. Now, since there's a place missing here, I'm going to add in a placeholder of 0. I'm going to drop my decimal down. And again, I am subtracting these numbers because I'm making 0 pairs. 6 minus 0 is 6. Borrow from the 5, change it to a 4 so that can become a 14. 14 minus 6 is 8. And 4 minus 3 is 1. So part of my answer is 1 86/100. Now I'm going to look back at my problem. I have 3.6 positives and 5.46 negatives. There are actually more negatives in this problem, which tells me that my answer is also negative. Alrighty, and here is the last problem that we are going to be working through. So I'm going to go back through my steps. I'm going to make sure that my problem is addition, which it already is. I'm going to look to see if I can make 0 pairs. I have something positive and I have a number that is negative. Yes, I can make 0 pairs. That means that I'm subtracting my numbers. I'm going to make sure my decimals are lined up. Again, make sure my decimal's in a line, and the decimal in my answer will stay in that same line. Then I'm going to subtract like normal. 6 minus 4 is 2, and 8 minus 5 is 3. So my answer is 3.2. Now I'm going to look back to my problem. I can see that I have more positives, which means my answer is going to stay positive, 3.2. Okay, so let's just go through those steps one more time. We're going to change anything that is subtraction to addition and take the opposite of the second number. We're going to focus on the signs of the numbers. When I was working through the examples, you saw me kind of highlight the positives in yellow and the negatives in red. You're going to ask yourself, can 0 pairs be made? If yes, then you're going to subtract the numbers, and you're going to keep the sign of the number with a greater absolute value. If you cannot make 0 pairs, then you're going to add. You know that you need to be adding the numbers, and you're going to keep the signs of the number that you added. And then, since we are working with decimals, when you go to subtract or to add, you're always going to line up your decimals. All right, thanks for watching.